16 minutes after 7 o'clock. Just how desperate are the corrupt to get their grubby little hands on municipal funds? Although government doesn't keep statistics on the number of public sector workers who are killed, according to yesterday's Sunday Times, research by one organization, Armed Conflict Location and Event Data, ACLED, shows that the figures are alarming. 148 have been killed since 2018. Most of these murders are linked to corruption. So whether it's mayors or councillors, financial officers, municipal managers, whether appointed or elected, all of them are a target. See, there are big bucks to be made and to shore up the provision of service delivery, and that's where the corruption occurs. Those who stand in the way must be removed. I think it was this Friday's Mail and Guardian that ran a story on how water infrastructure is being deliberately damaged so that people can then win tenders to deliver water with trucks. Now, when there's an official who looks at all of this and thinks suspect, the guys who are determined to win the tenders will then make sure he or she is removed. How bad is it and what can be done about it? I'm joined by two guests. Firstly, Dumisane Magagula, who is the General Secretary at the South African Municipal Workers Union, SAMWU, but also Professor Alex van den Heever, who is a governance specialist from Wits School of Governance. I'm going to take both of the interviews at the same time. I'll pose the first question to you, Dumisane. I mean, we have seen a number of people, some cases more high profile than others. How bad is it?
Good morning, Bongani and your listeners. The situation is very bad. 148 municipal workers killed over the last 7 years. That's a terrible number. And it's not only municipal workers, as you say, including councillors as well. And all of it is so that people can get their hands onto the money that is meant for service delivery. So it's not a good situation at all. What makes it worse is that municipalities are not keeping the data, government is not following through, and we have not seen any assessment that will improve on safety of municipal workers when they blow the whistle.
And of course, to be clear, many of the people who are behind these murders are at times colleagues colluding with syndicates from outside to make sure that these tenders go one particular way.
That's the tragedy of the whole corruption issue. There is a corruptor and a corruptee, and to a large extent, there's always collaboration internally. But that doesn't give an excuse for work that should be done to protect municipal workers and to make them feel safe to continue to raise issues of corruption where there are such instances.
And even people with reasonably high profiles, I'm thinking of Sindiso Magagula, are not immune or not safe from being targeted in this way.
Exactly. It goes through the whole strata of workers. It could even be workers at a very low level, general workers, because these killings are not only the matter of hijacking of the business or a tender. It's also discouraging workers from doing their work. When they deliver services and they are on the ground, they get intimidated, they get stabbed, so that they are out of the area, and then tenders can come in to deliver services in those areas. More especially around the water issues. When they bring the water tanks from the municipality, they get attacked. But when water tanks come from the service providers and tender premiers, they are protected.
What's the worst example you've seen, Dumisane?
The worst example has been the one at Ekurhuleni, where there was this investigation. It's the most recent one, and it's a brutal killing. But besides the fact that the member has been killed, an auditor, but now it stalls the whole process and it brings fear and intimidation to those who are still in the system, and the corruption may still continue because now people know that you will get killed even outside of the premises of the municipality.
Dumisane, I'm going to ask you to stay on the line and bring in now Professor van den Heever on this. I think the reference there, Prof, good morning, that you just heard will obviously be to Mpho Mafule, the assassination in Ekurhuleni. This is now, of course, the divisional head for corporate and forensic audits. And that was allegedly linked to an investigation into a 2 billion rand electricity scandal. And is possibly the most recent, most high profile and really most brazen example of what we're talking about.
Yes, and you would expect that when you have such killings, that the government would basically double down on making sure that, because now you know somebody's been assassinated, clearly something's wrong, and quite clearly you target the area that that person was responsible for or investigating, and you make sure that you get right through to the person, the people who are responsible. We don't see that though. We see that the task force on political killings was regarded as unnecessary and was going to be closed down. So that's the kind of problem, is that there's a pattern here, and the pattern is so blatantly obvious. It's basically this government tenders all the way through government, from municipal all the way up to national. And there is competition for those. And where you see the services failing, you know there is corruption. That's what's causing it. It's corrupt officials right up to the top. So there's a pattern. It's very clear what it is. And you'd expect that there would be a concerted effort by government to eliminate this, but there is no concerted effort at all. It's as if this is just a routine thing that happens occasionally as all other crime.
I think the phrase you've used are corruption extraction networks, because as you say, if this kind of thing happens and those who could do something about it seem to be looking the other way, or at least aren't sufficiently outraged to make sure it doesn't happen again, then it's safe to assume there are a lot of powerful people involved in this.
Yes, I mean, in essence, it's a confession. The fact that an administration, a government department, a provincial government fails to take action, and when I say provincial government structures are very often the people who've appointed the municipal government structures. So if we see absolutely nothing happening, you know that it goes right to the top. You know that that is where the problem lies. So there's a network that's in place, and these networks of extraction rely on the fact that it is a few people who can appoint the networks, who can actually place them in key positions within departments and government, and therefore you can get on all sides of tenders, etc. So the silence, as I say, is a confession. And
yesterday,
we've seen that from,
Sorry, I was going to say, yesterday we saw the Premier in Gauteng, for example, reshuffling heads of government. He noted the issue of underspending as a challenge. We also know he's recently released reports that have investigated malfeasance and corruption in Gauteng, in the province, for many years prior to their release. Is there a connection between that kind of thing and what we are discussing?
Well, I think that the Premier's actions to date show a very, very lax attitude toward dealing with these issues. If we had to look at the Babita Deokaran story, we're coming up to the 4th anniversary of her murder. And yet the people who were getting contracts in Tembisa Hospital and so on are still able to get contracts. They weren't even blacklisted by National Treasury. It is laughable. There's on every front there is no action, and so to supposedly move a few people around within the provincial administration, theoretically they had identified people based on lifestyle audits and found problems. There's no disclosure as to what was found and who was moved where and who was removed. It's just some people moved around. You don't move people around like that. You take concerted action. But it
isn't the sense that anybody's been charged, right?
Being charged, disciplined, action taken, and I again use the example of the Babita Deokaran story. You know, none of the people involved were disciplined, despite the fact of that was in the administration, the CFO, the head of the hospital, nothing.
So if
the
you're
HOD of the department.
So if you're a whistleblower under these circumstances, you really are the fool.
Well, if you make it known, so in the case of Babita Deokaran, and will be the case of the forensic investigator Kuruleni, they were operating within their administrations, within their hierarchies, and reporting up. So it was known what they were doing, but it was hidden from the public. That person is in incredible danger. The whistleblower tends to be the one who gets suspended and kicked out. But the person who is investigating or about to take serious action is the one who gets assassinated because nobody knows. They just take that person out and everything stops. Those people are in incredible danger and need to be protected. So in many cases, whistleblowers will now not reveal their names. They will reveal information and put it out there, but remain anonymous, which is probably the best thing to do. But people carrying out their official functions are actually in a high risk position when you've got a administration that doesn't respect your job and protect you and protect the integrity of your function.
Prof, is the tendering system the cancer in all of this?
The cancer in all of this is the political appointments into administrations, because that's how you can place networks very quickly. So you essentially require multiple people to be coordinating their actions in order for tenders to be manipulated. So it's not the tender system as such. It's the fact that you can manipulate the tender system, and it's easy to do if you're a politician. If you're a member of the executive, you're in a powerful position to basically establish these networks. And that's our problem. We've allowed this problem to occur. We've got governance structures that permit massive conflicts of interest to continue. So then you have people on the inside and people on the outside who are able to coordinate very easily. But if you had a normal administration where you've got a proper separation of powers, then you don't have that. Then it's not possible to establish a network of extraction within the state. So this is very much part of the problem. Not the tender system. We're always going to have to procure. Not that you procure by tender. You could procure in many different ways. If you're able to manipulate a tender system, you can manipulate any procurement system because it's all your buddies sitting on the entire system. So we basically have to make sure that officials are officials and members of the executive are political appointees, and they can't appoint people. So this is where it all starts, and where all the corruption begins and ends, and why it starts from the top.
Gosh, and what has that meant for service delivery? Professor Alex van den Heever, the governance specialist from Wits University School of Business. We also spoke to Dumisane Magagula, who is the General Secretary of SAMWU, the South African Municipal Workers Union.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions,
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.